Hi, I'm Sam, your resident fantasy reader,
And I'm Morgan, your romance reader, and we welcome you to Just One More Page,
where it's never just one more page.
When it comes to love triangles and romance novels, we are often torn between choosing just one side. But with Jade Presley reminds us that we don't have to. In her world, you have it all and love all sides of that love triangle unapologetically.
She may be the reason why your Kindle battery dies, because once you pick up her newest novel, The Never List, you won't be able to put it down.
We would like to welcome Jade to our podcast. We are so glad that you are here to talk about your novel and also for us to get some of our dying questions answered. So, yes. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here. Okay, before we get into the serious questions, I have to ask this question because it's been nagging me. It's been nagging me. And I talked about this in the podcast episode last week in which we reviewed your book. So this is going to be very random.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. When I was a kid, I read the series called the Jewel Princess series. And it was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they were like princesses. And each of them were based on like a gemstone or like diamond princess, or like my favorite was like ruby princess, and you got like little pieces of jewelry in each like book. Did you low-key get inspiration from that book series?
Oh my gosh, no, but that sounds phenomenal. It sounds like something I should have been reading back in the day for sure.
It was great. I remember when I went to like the book fair, that's the one book I had to get because I was like, look at all those like rings, look at the necklace. And of course, like the book is fantastic. But when I read your book, I was like, this reminds me of the Jewel Princess series, and also this movie that came out when me and Sam were in, like, I think we're in freshman year, that was called Covenant, and I was like, that reminds me of this book, this movie.
Oh, I do love that movie.
Oh, have you? Oh, yes.
Oh, yay! It's a cult classic.
I love that movie.
And so yes, I was right around that time too, and I love that movie, and I wish they would have done more, but I guess it just didn't. But yeah, that's so funny. I've never heard of those books, but now I want to go look them up because I bet my daughter would love them.
Oh, seriously, you should definitely. I think that they did kind of redo some of the artwork, but they're fantastic, and there's dragons, and it's fantastic. All I remember as a kid is that I absolutely love them.
That's so great. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go look those up now. Thanks for telling me. That's awesome.
No, welcome.
It was like, she's like, I have to ask her this. Like, when we were done recording the podcast, she's like, I have to ask her because, like, it's just been on her mind the whole time. So,
yes.
It would have been really cool if I would have been like, yes, I was totally inspired.
Absolutely.
I wish.
Totally inspired to write this spicy book about this good
Right? I wish.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, congratulations on your novel, The Never List, being out in the world now. It's been out for about a week now, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Could you tell us, our listeners, those who haven't heard of it or just finding this, a little blurb about your novel?
Yes, and thank you so much. I'm so excited it is finally out in the world.
Yeah.
The Never List is a spicy white choose filled with royal intrigue and enemies to lovers, and basically about a woman who is from a lower class who sneaks into an event that she is not allowed to be in, and then ends up getting ensnared in 4 god princes game, and she has to kind of lie in order to survive. So it's hopefully it's a rich romantasy that keeps you turning pages.
Oh yeah,
it for sure did. Oh my god.
Yeah, like we both couldn't put it down. We were obsessed. Also, your book cover, like the design of the book, if you guys have not seen what this book looks like, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Thank
I
you.
love the artwork on the inside. It's so pretty. But we also did a little research into you, and we found out that this is your first novel that was traditionally published.
Yes.
What was the road like getting there? Was there any highs, lows, or unexpected twists along the way?
Definitely. So Jade Presley is a pen name that I created because I normally, under my real name, Molly E. Lee, I've always written young adult.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that name, I was a hybrid author as well. I was self-published and independently and traditionally published.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wanted to do this passion project just for myself, and it was just kind of my Marvel nerd girl heart like vibing out. And I was like, what if Marvel had spice? And then I
Yeah.
kind of just wrote this passion project just for me. I just needed something different to kind of, re-spark my creative edge, and I didn't think anybody would read it. I was like, this is just going to be a fun thing that I'm going to independently publish under Jade Presley, just that way, because it was super spicy, and I didn't want my teenage readers to accidentally just like one click me and then just like fall into a why
Yeah.
choose. I just didn't want those emails in my inbox. So I was like,
Fair.
if they found it through Jade Presley, that's on them. That's not me. And so I put this book up independently called Her Villains. It was the first one that I did under Jade Presley. And there's a lot of awesome nerd girl readers out there who loved it. So it was such a wonderful experience doing that independently. And then my editor, who I'd worked with traditionally, asked me if I'd be interested in writing a spicy romantasy. And I was like, well, I do have this name that I just wrote this, spicy Marvel inspired book by. And then it kind of spiraled from there. And it was such a wonderful journey because I'd already had Riley's character had already been talking to me when my editor and I were talking about a new project. And so I was like, I've got this character who is super mad about being at this wealthy event, and there's going to be 4 princes. And they were like, yes, please go write it. And so I was really in such a great position to do that. And then they're just so supportive, and it's almost like having like your own built-in hype squad of people who just like see and understand you. And so that is one of the main differences between the self-published and traditional publish for me so far has been there's a lot more resources and a lot more people cheering you on, where self-publishing, a lot of the work is it's intimate, it's independent. I do have a wonderful editor I work with when I do self-publish, but it's just me and her basically. And so that's the main difference I've found. It's just that you have a wonderful team who is just like so pumped for your story and your characters, and they're like pushing you to be better and sharpening your work and all of those things. So it's been a wonderful experience for sure.
That's awesome. I'm glad you get a lot of support from your publishers and the team behind you, because that's so important.
Yes, definitely.
So what sparked your love for writing? Is there any writers that have influenced your writing or your storytelling? Just the kind of who inspired you to get here today?
I love this story so much. So I've wanted to do this since I was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my second grade teacher came in with a stack of little blank hardback books one day and said, we're going to write a story about whatever you want it to be. And then we're going to put that, final edited version into these hardbacks, and we're going to read them in front of your parents. And I literally just like lost my mind. My mind was blown when throughout the creation process and being able to create these characters out of nothing. And I fell in love with storytelling right then. I'd already been a big reader. I'd always loved reading books. And then after that assignment, like anytime anybody would ask me what I was going to do when I grow up, I was like, I'm going to be an author. And I kind of just didn't deviate from that plan throughout high school, throughout college. It's all I ever worked toward being or doing. And it was a long road for sure, but I worked in bookstores in order to help, manifest my book being on the shelf, I guess you could say. And and I always loved being surrounded by books anyway, so I just hopped from bookstore to bookstore wherever I lived, and loved reading and selling books, and so I think it's just been ingrained in me, and I feel like so incredibly lucky to be able to do what I do after wanting to have done it for so long.
Nice. I think that's awesome. I actually, funny enough, I'm a wannabe writer. I always say that, but that's like your whole thing of how your teacher brought in these blank books. That kind of is like what got me to want to start writing too. So it's funny how we're kind of twinsies.
I love that.
Yeah, on that aspect. But we kind of stalked your other interviews, but in a previous interview you stated that your inspiration for this book was based on the monarchy. Can you talk more about those ideas and how it came together to create this book?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, Riley's character was already talking to me pretty loudly, which is awesome because that makes my job so much easier. But while I was digging into her character and kind of exploring the worlds that she was kind of giving me glimpses of, I realized that this was definitely a story. Her story was definitely kind of like a clash of the classes, and there was some very unjust things happening in the world she was living in and with the secret she was harboring. And so from there, I dove straight into the royal monarchies throughout history research mode. And I spent several weeks looking at different monarchies throughout history and across countries. And obviously, there's a wealth of information with the British royal monarchy. And so gravitated toward that area. Kind of found all of these like lists in history that they would keep. And some of them were silly, like the people's most important birthdays, like don't forget these, and they were on a list, on this like scroll parchment thing. And then there would be like people who hold the most land titles list. And from there, from that rabbit hole, I just started thinking, well, what if there was like a never list where if your name was on it, you wouldn't be able to do certain things, marry certain people, elevate your class status, things like that. And kind of it really matched with what Riley was already telling me. And so, yeah, it just kind of exploded from there.
That's awesome. So another big thing that we kind of notice in your book is that there is such a big thing about feminism in the book. Is there a reason why you decided to make the goddesses rather than just gods?
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely a feminist. I'm definitely I think we're all feeling kind of that feminine rage lately.
Yes,
And
100%.
and I feel like it's almost, I mean, as sad it is, I think it's almost like a super relatable and connected thing between us women identifying people. And while I was writing it, it was always at the forefront of my mind. And I just wanted to create this world that was, originally created on the backs of 4 goddesses, but now it's 4 kings, and kind of play with that contradiction. And it definitely fit with Riley being like, what in the world? Like, why are we bowing to these guys? And like, this doesn't make any sense. And just exploring that. And again, she came to me super feisty, super outspoken. And so it just all matched up, definitely. And I wanted her to be a character that not only you could really just slip into and relate to, but also kind of be inspiring. Because I definitely wish I was more outspoken and more fiery like her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I could have been as tough as she was in front of the king. I would have been like, "Sir, I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me."
Same, dude, same.
Okay, so, and this might be a little spoilery, so for our listeners who haven't read this book, I'm so sorry. But the goddesses are kind of the catalysts that start this novel, as they're the ones who kind of set up the legends of chaos for needing to find a mate. Like, they're the ones who kind of like began this story for the guys. So now that the Athenry has been completed and we're kind of on the other side of it, will that be the end of the goddesses' role for this story, or are we going to see more of them later?
Yeah, no, definitely not the end of their story. I'm deep into book 2 right now. Ooh. And I'm loving, I'm trying to figure out everything I can say.
Not give too much away.
Right. No, I'm loving the almost like learning more about them, for sure. Right. Like, there's more that Riley has to learn. There's more that the princess has to learn. And so, yes.
Yes. I mean, no, clearly do not spoil it, but I was just like, are we gonna, like, is that it? Like, are we gonna see more of them? Like, because I really kind of like loved how motherly they were toward Riley, and how like they seemed like they really want to connect with her, and they were like really excited for her. And then and then that happened.
That thing happened.
And then that happened.
Yes.
So
I will say is that both me and Sam, when we finished your book, I was like, what? Like, it was one of, like, I did not see that coming, but I also had to run around my room and talk to my dog all manically, be like, oh my God, this is what happened in this book. Thank goodness there's no cameras there, because I would have looked very crazy.
No, I love that.
I was in my car. And it was like thank you for listening to Audible. I'm like, no, thank you for listening to Audible. I'm like, keep on going. I need to know what happens next.
You're like, where's the rest?
Where's the rest?
Yeah,
I
we
know.
were
I
definitely.
just I ran out of ink.
It's fine.
No!
It's fine.
Okay, so her friends. Firstly, I loved her friends in this book. And she has such a great friend story, which I feel like sometimes writers do struggle, especially in romance novels, with bringing friends along the ride. They kind of forget about them. But I like the fact that Riley has such a great friend group. And do you think that Riley's story would have been like a little bit differently if she didn't have that strong of a friend group?
Yes, absolutely. I think she would have been in a much worse spot if
Mhm.
she didn't have these wonderful found family friends with her, like especially because her sister's been missing for a year and
Mhm.
her family is gone. I think she would just be in such a terrible space, like mind headspace, that I don't know if she would have even had the courage to sneak into the choosing. I don't know if she would have even if she did, if she would have had the energy and the motivation to survive, honestly, because she's been through it already. And then, like, her world gets turned upside down. So, Ivy and Lacey were so important to me in this story. And I think that female relationships, especially in romance, are incredibly important, to have those friendships and those
Yeah.
non-toxic, supporters who are just like, okay, you got this. Just make these four princes fall for you, and you'll be good. Just don't die. Come back to
Yeah.
me. Just have these like wonderful. I feel like there's just those wonderful relationships that do fill your soul in so many ways that a romantic relationship doesn't.
Mhm.
And so that was just incredibly important to me, and I'm so glad that you guys like them. They
Yeah.
will be definitely in book 2. I've gotten that question a
Yay.
lot, and they will be more on the page. I think in the Neverlist, Riley was just so terrified of having them,
Mhm.
be affected negatively by her position that she didn't bring them in as much as she wanted to. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I mean, and it's awesome because like at the moment where I can't remember which one it was, but he was like, yeah, your friends can come, and I'm like, oh, I love these guys even more, like bringing in the friends. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, I love Pierce. That was Pierce
Pierce,
who
Yes.
yes.
did
Yeah.
that. I love him so much. I love all four of them,
Yeah.
but the that too was important because we don't need men who are intimidated by outside relationships. You
Oh,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh
Like
Of
that's just
gosh.
not
course.
something I'm about, especially with this why choose. I'm like, that's not even going to be a thing. So that was really fun.
Yeah. Of course.
So, because this novel is a romantasy and it mixes romance and fantasy, were there any challenges you faced with balancing the romantic elements versus the fantasy plot of this book?
Yeah, it was definitely something I went into when we were plotting. I say we because me and my dog are in here plotting. Like she's my partner, and she'll be like, I'll be like, "Does this sound good?" And she just doesn't say anything, but it's great. No, so I wanted to do something that was like you could sink your teeth into it as well as fan yourself. You know what I mean? Like I definitely wanted to give it just a good. I want it to be plot heavy and spice heavy at the same time, and that is definitely an undertaking. It's something that you could tip the scale either way, and you could go off in another direction. So I am a plotter. So
Mhm.
while I was doing the extensive plotting that I do a chapter by chapter spreadsheet before I even
Yeah.
start writing the book. I wanted to make sure. So luckily in that I was able to okay, balance the spice and then also make sure I'm moving all these other storylines forward, because when you have four love interests for one main character, there's so many storylines going on.
Mm.
And so I think plotting really helped in that regard because I was able to see it as a whole and
Mhm.
make sure I didn't go one direction too much either way.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel
Was it?
like too, like it was nice, like even though we were in like, I don't know, Axel's point of view, but you still saw the guys. And when you were in
Yeah.
Jackson's point of view, you still saw the other guys. It wasn't like we were like fully honed in on each one at all times and kind of forgot about the rest. And
Right.
that was really nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I definitely wanted them all on the page and also to just showcase their bonds. They're
Mhm.
Mm.
those male friendships are just as important as the female ones, and so yeah, it's definitely some juggling for sure. But I think that's where plotting really just helped me out. So that way it wasn't just I wish I could be a pantster, but I just can't. I'm not. I don't have that capability.
Well, I mean, we can definitely tell that you put a lot of thought into the characters because each of the characters, they are so well defined. Like, I can look at like Axel and be like, that is something I can see him doing, or Pierce and be like, that's something I can see him doing. Did you put a lot of thought into creating each character, and kind of like what character came to you first?
Thank you so much for saying that because
Oh,
it
no
was
problem.
incredibly important to me. I'm a very character-driven writer,
Mhm.
and so like even before the plotting starts, I'll spend a week or 2 weeks or however long I need with the characters first, and I'll start sketching them out and putting them in scenarios and seeing how they react and what they sound like, what their vibe is. And Riley definitely came to me the easiest because she was very shouty about her story.
Yeah.
And then through her, I started to kind of get these glimpses of these princes. And Axel was definitely one of the easiest ones,
Mhm.
which is so funny. He came to me very boisterous and proud of himself. And so that was super fun. And Cal was very equally pretty easy. And then it was Pierce and Jax that were the hardest to kind of peel back their layers and see what they were all about, which is how they came out in the book. So it kind of worked out that way. But yeah, one of my goals was definitely I wanted them to be super distinct so you weren't like the reader isn't getting like tired and being like, oh, this is like a copy and paste character. Or, if you had opened the book and you didn't see the chapter tag, I wanted you to be able, oh, we're in Axel's head. Like I know that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it was definitely at the forefront of my mind when I started writing. Because it's a lot for romantic relationships is a lot. And I don't want to wear the reader out in that way.
Right.
Yes.
I was gonna
So
say one's already hard enough as it is. Four.
Yes.
God bless her.
exactly,
God bless
right?
Riley. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
couldn't be me, but I love it. I love it.
And this is why it is a fantasy.
Yes.
Yes.
So one thing that we both really love about this book is the fact that there's kind of this like constant conversation about like choice and consent. Especially because it kind of when you hear the invitation at the very beginning of it and like how you're gonna do whatever these guys tell you and here's your magical contract, it kind of puts a little bit of fear into you of like, oh my god, what's about to happen next. Was that something that you made like a super effort to include, or did that just feel like a very natural choice to include that just like constant conversation of like choice and consent?
It was absolutely something that I've always, in all of my books, consent is always such a
Yes.
major. It's funny that it shouldn't have to be
Right.
on the forefront of the page so much, but like for my characters, I definitely want them to. I want it always to be her choice. Well, and I want the males to have choice too, but in those kind of dynamics. And when the scene for the choosing, pretty much the opening scene came to me with Riley, the invitation kind of came with it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would be like such a choice, right? Like you have a choice to take the invitation or not, and it binds you magically to like this opportunity. And like the fact that Riley was kind of excited about that instead of scared was like, oh, she's going to be so much fun, like going
Yes.
into her story. And so the invitation came really naturally, but consent is always such an important discussion especially in Why Choose, because
Yeah.
and especially when they're princes and she's a lower class, like there needed to be clear lines laid out. And like if it's I've always operated, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And so that's kind of the attitude we went in with it with Riley. And yeah, it's always important. I wish it didn't have to be so like upfront, but it's a discussion that always needs to happen and have clear desire for sure.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
I think that's awesome because I have read a couple of Why Chooses before, and I've never really thought about the whole thing of like consent and stuff like that. So the fact that you wrote that in your book series was very refreshing to me to be like, wait, this actually makes it feel more realistic. I mean, besides like the whole powers and stuff like that, but it was more realistic because that's what I would expect in a real relationship. But
Right.
so I'm still stuck on the Jewel Kingdom princess stories I read as a kid, and I have to ask you, do the different gemstones for the characters hold meaning, or was this just a way to separate each one for our MC?
They do hold meaning.
Ooh.
I can't go into it.
Okay.
It's okay.
But yes, they were chosen with intention. I did do a lot of research into gemstones and crystals and properties and things like that. It's so funny when you're writing a romantasy like that's thick like this, you have a whole lot of other stories that don't make it into the first book. And so I have all these like wonderful like snippets, but they're not coming until later. And so I love that you saw that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I feel like even without you like telling us what it means, like because Jax's stone is obsidian, I'm like that makes so much sense because obsidian's so hard to mold, and Jax is just Jax. You know, that's just Jax.
Absolutely, I love that. Yes, that's 100%. And I feel like even their their cities definitely reflect them as princes.
Yes.
And, Cal's has got that wonderful artistic and growth vibe, and then of course Jax's is like wild and edgy and like so yeah, it definitely was with intention.
I love it.
Yeah.
So her relationship with her sister Erin is spoken about a lot in the novel. And sorry for our listeners who haven't read this book, but is that a relationship we're going to get to explore more in the next novel?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Because I need, some answers. So I'm excited.
I have some questions for her. Miss Ma'am, I need to sit you down and I need to talk to you because what you did to Riley is not okay.
Nope, absolutely not. Okay.
I've been getting that a lot, actually.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so obviously we're gonna try not to spoil anything. But was there a certain scene in this book that you really liked writing?
Oh man, I love this. Was genuinely such a lovely book to write. I had so much fun with it, especially because Riley, I love her so much. I think one of my favorite scenes to write was the choosing event in the beginning. I think it's probably because it was the one that came to me so vividly in the beginning that kind of kicked off the entire story for Riley, and it was so visual in my mind, and I just like I see it kind of like a movie, and just like I saw the glass floor and the beautiful gowns and like how out of place she felt, but she still held her own, which I loved. And I learned so much about Riley through that scene, and so I think that was probably my favorite.
It was super pretty to like imagine it and stuff like that, and also like how she comes from such a different world too.
Yes,
I love it so much.
Thank you.
So because you said you were deep into writing book 2, do you have a timeline ish for like a release date? Are we thinking 2026, 2027?
I haven't gotten a date yet from my publisher. I've been asked this a lot too, and I don't have one yet, but the minute I do, I promise I'm going to tell everybody.
Please,
awesome.
Please.
Just right now, sometimes they just don't have the schedule out yet, and so I'm just diving into it because I'm just loving living in this world. And I am on deadline, but my deadline has nothing to do with like when it actually comes out.
Right.
So
yeah.
I can't. Yeah. So once I find out, I'll definitely say it.
Well, we for sure look forward to it.
Yes.
Thank
but
you.
No pressure, no rush. Like don't rush this story. Take your time. Like get your characters out. But like,
thank you.
We are very excited.
Yes, we are. If you had to sum up the vibe for book 2, without, of course, any spoiler, but just give us one word to kind of give up a vibe of how that book will be, what would it be?
Oh no. This is hard. This is okay. Hopeful.
Okay.
Yet
okay.
Precarious.
Okay. Ooh, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. That's the best I can do right now.
I love it.
I love it. Okay. Well, so the fun thing we like to do with our guests that come on the podcast is we like to play a little game. So me and Sam came up with a game called You Have to Choose. Not why choose, but you have to choose.
Oh no.
And we would give you a question and you have to choose a person to go along with it. So I'll start it. So who is the first person in a haunted house to yell, "It's fine," before getting dragged away into the basement?
Axel. 100%. I mean, these are my characters, right? Like that's what we're okay.
Yeah.
Axel.
Yes.
100%.
Me and Sam both said that at the same time when we were coming up with these questions. I was like, Sam, who would that be? And she's like, Axel.
I was back and forth. I was back and forth. I was like, Axel or Cal?
Yes.
But more Axel. Definitely more
Yes,
Axel.
definitely.
Yes. Okay. If you were stranded on an island and you had to bring one of the guys with you, which one would you bring with you to help you survive?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I mean, I guess I would say Axel again because he can, control the sea and earth and all of that. So he would definitely be able to like fish for us and maybe purify the water in some way.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say him again.
Who would volunteer as a tribute in the Hunger Games?
Oh gosh, Jax.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
He
I
would.
thought for some reason I thought it was going to be Axel too because I thought he'd be like, I'll do it. I'm good. But yeah,
right?
I can see Jax.
Jax has got that hidden heart, man, and it would probably be like Cal first, and then Jax would like roll his eyes and be like, "No, I got this." Like,
yeah, I was going with Cal. I have a sweet spot for Cal. I don't know why I love him. But Jack, I could see Jax doing it definitely.
Yes.
Okay, so if we sent your 4 guys into a well-needed therapy session, who would be oversharing the most?
Cal, definitely Cal.
Yeah, Cal.
Because he wants, he just wants to be the best, and he's so open, and he'd be like, "All right, let's go."
Yes. Well, if your characters were in a group chat, who would be sending all the memes, and who would be leaving the group chat on red?
I feel like Pierce would be leaving it on red because he just loves to observe so much, and then I feel like Axel would be sending all the memes. For sure. He's my goofball. I don't know. I just love him.
Okay. Which character would you choose to be your emergency contact?
Oh, wow. Probably Riley.
Yeah.
Like, she's so dependable and like she's ride or die for her girls, right? So like if Ivy called her up and was like, "Okay, so there's a body," she'd be like, "I'm coming over."
Yeah.
Like,
I got you.
Probably Riley.
Okay, so during a game night, which character would flip over the table after losing, and which character would win that game?
Pierce would win it.
Mm-hmm.
Jax would probably flip it over. I feel bad saying that because I'm like, none of them are really like super out of control of their anger, but if there was anyone, it would be him.
Yeah.
I could see Jax being like, "This is stupid. Bye, guys."
Yep. Right, exactly. Especially if it was against one of the boys and not like Riley's not involved, like because I know he never would want to like scare her in that way, but like I definitely if it was like against Pierce, he'd be like, "Oh, this is dumb, I'm out."
I didn't even want to play this stupid game, guys.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you had to assign each of the Legends of Chaos a spirit animal, what would their animals be?
Oh my goodness, this is such a good question, and I got it last night at my event, and I was so thrown.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna stick with the same answers.
Okay.
Cow would be a lion. He's very, regal and loyal and leader. Axel, I said he would be a shark because he is an ocean boy, but I feel like he could also easily be a puppy. Like,
oh yeah,
just like never ending energy and just like ready to go on an adventure, like just like no matter what, even if it's dangerous. So I was stuck between those two. Jax, I still don't know what Jax would be because he's more like a wraith in my mind. He's like this, shadow stalker type vibe. So like I don't know what animal really equates to that. Maybe I don't know, maybe like a spider or a snake or something, like because he's very much like unapproachable.
Yeah.
And then for Pierce, I literally said an octopus because I'm like, aren't those like the smartest? Right? Like those are the smartest animals, and he has so many multifaceted, things in his mind so I said he'd be an octopus. And he could be in a lot of places at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That one.
So it's such a tough question, but that's where we're at.
Yes. Okay, so if your guys were gonna get into a bar fight, which one would start the fight and which one would just finish it?
Axel would start it, and Cal would finish it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
For sure. Cal would be like, "We don't need to do this."
Yes, I completely
Go
see
all
that.
regal about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you had to choose the character to help babysit, who would you bring along to help you babysit a child, and who would you absolutely ban from coming within 10 feet of that child?
Oh, I would bring Pierce along to
Yeah.
babysit. Like he's such a perceptive and adaptable person. So I'd bring him, and I probably wouldn't let Axel around them because he'd be like throwing them over their shoulder and like go straight into the ocean. You know what I mean? Like he has no read the room
Yeah.
Right.
ability.
Yeah.
So
I know your parents said we're not doing this. We're doing it anyway.
we're doing it. Yeah, like everything on the list that's like a no, he'd be like, we're gonna get that knocked out today.
Yeah. I just feel like Axel would be just like a really cool uncle.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
I
he
can
would.
totally see that. So we're gonna ask you this question. This one's gonna be really tough to answer.
Oh,
If
no.
you were in Riley's shoes, who would you choose first to spend your time with?
Oh, that is super hard. That is super hard. Because for like me personally,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably, because I have like no survival instincts, I guess I would go with Jax first.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, because I definitely gravitate towards the, broody bad boy type. And so I would probably go after him first, but definitely in the book, it was very always going to be Cal because I feel like he was the safest place to land for Riley to get her bearings. And so it was such a natural first
Yeah.
man to be with.
Yeah. And I also feel like it was a really nice way to kind of get into the characters too by meeting Cal. So last question we have, and me and Sam, I asked Sam this last podcast, if you could choose any one of their kingdoms or castles to vacation at, where would you vacation at?
Oh, that is such a hard question. I feel like I would gravitate towards the Emerald Wood
Yeah.
because they're so like reader friendly and they bring you all the tea and snacks you want and you could just they won't bother you, they'll just let you read your book and this and keep bringing you food. I feel like that's like the best vacation where
Yes.
you don't have an agenda, and you can just slip into other worlds through the pages. And so
Yeah.
I think I would go to the Emerald Wood.
100%. That's what I chose.
I love
I was
that.
like Sapphire Cove. I'm a water girly all day long.
Yes,
It's
that is
like-
hard too because like if you want beach vibes, you're definitely
Yeah.
gonna go there. If you want to
Yeah.
go to like the theater district, you're going to the Rubier, and then
Yeah.
if you want to like go gamble and get crazy, you're going to Obsidian City.
Yes.
It really depends on your
100%.
vibe.
Right?
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you once again for coming on this podcast. It was so nice to talk about this book, and also just tell you how much your book like was so good to us and how much we were so surprised over the ending. I still can't get over it. I like cannot get over it. But do you want to let our readers know where they can find your socials?
Yeah, and thank you so much. I'm so thrilled that you guys enjoyed it. That means so much to me. And you can find me on Instagram or TikTok. That's where I am primarily, and it's at Jade Presley Author. And I do respond to DMs. I respond to comments. I'm doing my best to keep up. And if I don't respond, it's because I haven't seen it. So you can always nudge me if it's something important you want to chit chat about, or if you just want to yell at me about the cliffhanger. I am there and open for it. So thank you.
Well, you guys should know where our socials are, but if you guys don't, obviously you can find us anywhere else. You can find a podcast. Also, we do have a YouTube channel, which I've been saying for the past 2 years that I'll post on, but I never do. So maybe one day I will. And Sam will tell you about the rest of our socials.
Okay, so if you think we are absolutely hilarious, which fun fact, my friends, we do have a TikTok. It is Just More Page Podcast. For all the pictures, videos, stories, anything else we decide to post, we do have an Instagram. It is Just More Page Official. We are also Just More Page Podcast on Blue Sky and Tome. So go ahead and follow us on there. Come slide into our DMs. We love talking to you all. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will talk to you all next Sunday.
Yeah, Jade, thank
Yeah.
you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on the
so much.
podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All right, and happy Easter.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Happy Easter
you
if you
too.
celebrate it. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.